Hi, today we're going to be talking about emergency management in the workplace. My name is Michael Terry, I'm from Momentum Safety and Ergonomics, and this is the 5-Minute Safety Series. So when we're talking about emergencies, it's important that we understand the types of emergencies that are going to likely happen in our workplace. Obviously, fire is the main one that most people think about, but depending on where you work and the type of sort of area that you're in, there could be a whole raft of other different types of emergencies that are relevant. Flooding could be a massive problem. Again, it depends on where you live. It could be cyclones in some areas or severe storms in others. It could be things like bushfires. Even earthquakes, depending on where you live. Again, if you happen to live in Christchurch, this could be a big thing to think about. Other things might include even medical emergencies or intruders or something like that. Bomb threats are relevant to some workplaces. So it's important that you sit down as a group at some point in time and come up with a list of key things that could actually happen. And this will be built into an emergency risk register. On the emergency risk register, we will include the key hazards and an assessment of the likelihood and consequence of that emergency if it actually occurred. Also on the register will be a broad summary of our key control measures. So the control measures might include things like procedures, emergency personnel and emergency equipment. But that's going to vary a little bit depending on the particular emergency that is applicable. Now, specific control measures that we will need to consider are definitely detailed plans for how our company or organisation will act if and when the emergency actually occurs. Some of these will be very similar. For example, your evacuation plans will be similar for probably different types of emergencies, but some of them will be very different. So your procedure of what you do in a fire will be different than what you do in a flood. Other things that we'll need to have in addition to our plans will be appropriate personnel. Oftentimes this is called your emergency control organisation or team, and they are the people like your fire wardens or evacuation wardens that can coordinate the emergency response. You'll need to have also things like emergency equipment in place. So this is going to include firefighting equipment, alarms, and all the appropriate signage for the workplace as well. You'll need to also include emergency training. So the training that will be delivered will vary depending on the type of person that is being trained. For example, wardens, especially the chief fire warden, will need a much higher level of training than the average staff member. Most of the staff members will just need training in how to evacuate in an emergency and any specific involvement that they have as far as procedures. Final thing that we need to consider is practice evacuations. Again, this is part of our fire regulations that everyone does periodic practice evacuations, and the specific requirement for this will vary depending on where you are, but generally it's annually that you must do a practice evacuation. It's important that this gets conducted in as realistic as possible circumstances, so you actually generate the alarm and have people evacuate as they would under normal emergency circumstances. Following your practice evacuation, it is important that you do a full debrief, see what went well, what went poorly, and what we can do to improve our training and procedures and or equipment that might be required. So there we have it, guys. There's a summary of your key requirements for emergency management, workplace management. The main things that we need to remember are that we identify all the emergencies. I find a lot of organisations are specifically identifying fire, but they're missing a whole bunch of these other ones. We then pull those into our emergency risk register and assess the risk of each one, and then we can go ahead and develop appropriate procedures, have the right personnel, have the right training and the right equipment in place to appropriately manage each of these emergencies. Thanks for watching the 5-Minute Safety Series. If you felt like you got some value out of these videos, please click on the screen to see some of the other videos in the 5-Minute Safety Series, or otherwise feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel.